Welcome to the integration guide. In this video, I'm going to walk you through integrating the network replicated version of ALS and ATPS. I will put the download link in the description, but if multiplayer aspect isn't that important to you, you can still follow this guide using the original ALS. Okay, we're going to start with migrating assets. I would recommend migrating from ALS to ATPS because in ATPS there is a custom collision channel, which you will need to import first. Now with everything selected, just migrate the content folder. Okay, check errors. Should be able to ignore these. Now that ALS assets are migrated, let's import the input settings. I already made one for you, so you can just find it in the description. Just go to project settings, input, and click on import. Done. Now let's try playing in editor to make sure everything's all good. Okay, locomotion is good. Rolling and ragdoll also good. Mantle, okay. We're good to go. Now we need to do some preparations. First, open up the skeletons of both ATPS and ALS character. There are some sockets we need to copy over to ALS skeleton. So you want to click on this gear button, hide the bones, and select these sockets. We don't need the last one, so just leave it. Right click on these sockets and copy selected sockets. Then go to ALS skeleton. Just right click on any bone and select paste sockets. That way these sockets will be pasted in under the correct bone. Okay. While we're at it, there's one more thing we need to set up. Just click on this window. In the drop-down menu, you should be able to find asset details. This will allow us to assign compatible skeletons. Click on the plus button and find ATPS skeleton, which is called Scale Mannequin. Close and save. We want to do the same for ATPS skeleton, and this time we select ALS skeleton as compatible. This will give both skeleton access to all the animation assets. Okay, next we're going to merge the character logic. Open up ALS base character BP and then BP TPS base character from ATPS. So, wow, that's a mouthful. So in this blueprint, we are going to rename 3 variables. Search for speed and rename it to speed ATPS. Then search for rotation. We need to rename these 2. Target rotation, rename, and also ATPS. Then rotation mode, same deal. These 3 have a naming conflict with ALS, which is why we're changing it. Compile, save. Then we go back to ALS base character. In the class settings, we want to find the parent class and change it from character to BP TPS base character. This way, ALS base character will inherit all the logic components and variables. We just compile, save. Now the next step is very important. So go back to the editor or just call up this content viewer and save all. And then close this project completely and open it back up. We're doing this because there seemed to be a bug with the latest engine, which is version 5.0.3. What happens is when you reparent ALS base character to TPS base character, its existing child class, which is anim BP, inherited the variables and components from ATPS and not the preset values. So if we don't reopen the project and instead just play in editor, the anim BP will be running with a lot of empty variables and you will get a lot of errors. Now let's open up anim BP. In the class defaults, all of these should be not empty. If you're not seeing it like this, you can start over again. I mean, it's just a couple minutes work. You could of course manually set these variables, but that could take hours, I mean. Okay, now if we open the ALS level, we need to change some world settings first. You can keep the ALS game mode and default pawn class as well, but we want to change the player controller to ATPS player controller. In game state class, we change it to CQB course. Player state, we will need to use ATPS basic. It will allow us to buy weapons. So for the HUD, we need to use BP TPS HUD. Otherwise your crosshairs won't work. Okay, save these settings and let's hit play and see if we break anything. Okay, all's well except getting up from Ragdoll. We'll try to fix that later. Now we need to link the anim BPs, so open these two anim BP. First, in ALM anim BP, you want to bring up the anim graph and bypass this aim offset part. Go from post layering straight to hand IK section. We'll let ATPS handle the aim offsets. Compile and save. Okay, go to ATPS anim blueprint. In the anim graph, you want to go to the top left corner, says basic locomotion. Open up non-combat ground and go into idle state. We want to create a link to another anim graph. Search for linked and select this ALS anim BP. For now, we want to replace the whole thing with this. Compile save. Now let's go to the level. We want to place some weapons in there so we can test out both logic and animation. So you can drag in some weapons, or you could go to the props folder and drag in the market area object. If you rotate 90 degrees, and you probably want to scale the whole thing up a little. Hit play, and if you press M on your keyboard, you will bring up the market menu. And you have lots of money to spend. Let's buy a service pistol. So I made a mistake here. I forgot to replace the anim instance, which is why ATPS animation are not playing. So let's go back to ALS anim man. Click on the mesh. You want to change this anim class to ABP TPS base character. Compile and save. Okay, back in the level. Now if we buy a weapon or two, you will see the animations playing. But wait, there's some issue. The character's feet is doing something weird. and character movement is messed up. Let's just fix character movement first. And it's very simple. In ALSv character, click on this capsule component and we need to change the collision settings. You see the weapons we are holding is a physics body, so we need the capsule to ignore physics body, so the weapon won't push us away. And click on the mesh. For the collision settings, we want to first set parallax correction to block. For pawn and vehicle, set them to block as well. Then compile and save. By the way, make sure generate overlap events is checked for mesh, otherwise the character won't be taking damage. Now if we're holding a weapon, movement is back to normal. Now let's solve the foot going crazy issue. What's happening is this crazy behavior is purely driven by foot IK. Essentially, it's because of the different character rotation setup between ALS and the ATPS. First step we need to do is go to ALSv character. In the class default, you want to search for yaw, and we need to check this setting. Use character rotation yaw. By checking this value, we are no longer using ALS turns and rotation logic. In the level, you will see that the character will still go crazy. If you bring up the console and type in show collision, you will see the capsule is rotating with our camera. This is different from ALS setup. For ALS, when you rotate the camera, your character stays still until you pass certain threshold. In ATPS setup, the character, along with its capsule and mesh and other components, rotates with the controller. But the character appears to be standing still because we are constantly backing out the rotation on the skeletal mesh using this rotate root bone node. There's a little note down here if you need more information. Now let's go to ALS and BP. In the foot IK layer, these four variables are controlling the foot lock location and rotation. Right click on one of these and just find reference. You will see these variables. So they are set in this update foot IK function. Double click. You will see these variables are set by reference. What we need to do is simply change the transform space here from RTS component to RTS parent bone space. Compile and save, then go back to the foot IK layer. For these two transform modify bone nodes, we need to change both rotation and location to use parent bone space as well. Now let's test it. When we rotate the camera, the feet are planted. That's good. Turn in place is broken. We'll fix that later. For now, let's just make sure foot IK is all set. Looks good. Now let's finish with character rotation and turn in place. If you go back to ATPS and BP, in this state machine called non-combat ground, there is a state called TIP as in turn in place. So these four animations are playing, but the character isn't rotating. That's because the rotation is driven by these two curves. Is turning tells the character to start taking in distance curve values. And the distance curve value tells how much to rotate the root bone each frame. However, these two curves don't exist on ALS skeleton, so when we read the values of these two curves, they will always be 0. To fix this, we just create these two curves on ALS skeleton. In anim curve panel, just search for these curves and There's none. So let's just right click and add curve. Okay, let's try again. Rotating just fine. Now if we buy a weapon, rotate a little bit, you will see this happening. Well, if you go to the aim offset section and find the part for one-handed weapon, open up ALSv4, you will see when blending to the left side post, the left foot is moving slightly, so is the IK foot elbow. This is from when I was making animations. I added a bit of footwork in some poses to make it look a bit more natural. So to fix this, we just borrow this layered blend per bone node, copy over, but we need to change the layer setups. We don't need so many, just need one, so delete the other two, and the remaining one we want to blend at the IK foot root bone. Then we feed the aim offset to the base pose. And copy this over. Connect to blend pose 0. Don't forget to plug it back in. Compile save. Aim offset looks fine. Let's try a different weapon. Now PDW is basically having the same issue. You can fix the same way. So just copy and paste these two nodes and hook it up the same way. Now let's see how it works on slope. Not bad. You can check the other weapons for this issue and fix them the same way. Now let's move on to another issue. Mantle system is working, but animation is not played. So if you search for one of the Mantle animations, what's being played is actually the anim montage. So now you can play a montage without defining the anim slot. So it's on movement action group base layer slot. Since we're using ATPS anim blueprint, we need to define this slot in here. So search for a slot node. In the anim slot manager panel, let's add a new group called movement action group. Okay, with this new group selected, we want to add a new slot called base layer. Now we should be able to find this new slot in the drop-down menu here. Okay, pick this and plug it in. Be careful here, it goes to the false pose. Now we fix the Mantle system. Let me show you another issue though. Open up the market menu and buy 2 revolvers and buy some more ammo. While you're at it, press M to close. Pressing Z will activate dual wield. When you're empty with both weapons, auto reload will kick in. If you look closely, you will see the offhand weapon is not loading. The character animation stopped, but weapon animation continued. So this is also due to a missing curve issue. We need to find these dual reload offhand animations. Find this revolver dual reload offhand anim montage. There are 5 metadata curves here controlling the logic. Basically, the first 2 prevents the character from firing both hands, obviously because both hands are busy. Next 2 disables hand IK that adjusts the hand position. The last one signifies we are loading an offhand weapon. Without this curve, we are checking the main hand weapon to see if it's full and if we need to stop loading and that stuff. So we need to make sure ALS skeleton has these curves. We also need to add these curves to anim sequence of these. Just right click on it and open asset. In the curve section, we need to add those 5 curves as metadata, which means the curve value is fixed to 1. So block aim baseline for both main hand and offhand, block fire for main hand and offhand, and most importantly, reloading offhand. Now I made a mistake here because I forgot to add these 5 curves to ALS skeleton, which means this still won't work. But if we create these curves in ALS skeleton, it will work perfectly. So in ATPS there are 80 something character montages, but don't be scared, not all of them have these curves. You can search for am underscore to find all of them. And all you need to do is go through each one, and it's a bit of a manual labor, but it won't take too much time. If I find a better way around this, I will make an update. Basically, if you see some ATPS animation behaving weird, check if it's a montage and see if there is a curve in it. For example, let's use this bow draw animation, and these 2 curves not only control how much charge power is applied, but also controls the right hand IK to lock the right hand to the string lock location. For now, let's focus on some other issues. So in ATPS anim blueprint, we are using these states, so ALS locomotion is overridden. If you want the walk, run, sprint to play, we can disable this transition for now, and this one as well. Okay, running and sprinting are all good, but jump animation still need to be replaced. So let's just bypass this state machine because it's just jump animations. Meanwhile, we can't use only the ALS locomotion. We need the shield locomotion to play when the shield is activated. So let's go to the run state and make some space. We want to copy these two AND conditions and add an OR boolean in front of it. Do a blend post by bool. Use this OR boolean as condition. Link all these to true and add another linked anim graph to ALS and BP to false post. Give it a try. Okay, bioweapon and shield. Press Z to do wield. Okay, it didn't work because the transition was disabled, I think. Connect this. We didn't change the idle pose yet, so do that later. But when we are moving with the shield, the animation is playing. Okay, but it's constantly snapping back. Left and right seems fine, only front and back movement are having these issues. This is because there's root motion in these two animations, and we need to lock it down. Find the shield, pistol, walk animations. We need both F and B. So in the asset details, find this force root lock and check it. You can disable the enable root motion option or leave it on. In our case, we are not using root motion, so both are okay. Do the same for B. Now it's working. Now for idle animation, we want to do something similar. Copy these conditions over and them alone will suffice, because when a shield is holstered, the weapon type will still read as shield. But we don't want to act like we're still holding a car door or something. So let's get a do wheel status and a select node. We want different things to happen with each status, so set it up like this. Shield is by default an offhand weapon, so no need to worry about the first two conditions. If we are holding an offhand weapon and it's a shield, we want this to be true. Same for when we are holding an offhand weapon in main hand, though. If it's a shield, then this returns true. Then we want this part connected to dual wield main off and dual wield off. Leave the rest to false. We don't need this AND bool no more. Okay, let's take a look. Okay, good. Next issue on the list, we're going to try out the crouching stance. Okay, crouching idle looks good without AO, but there's a couple problems. Turn in place animation is standing only, so we need crouching turn animations. We're gonna need rotate in place animations as well, so let's just fix these. First, let's come back to the TIP state. These are all the standing turn animations. We need to be able to switch between standing and crouching. So let's search for turn. We're looking for these ALSCLF animations. All 4 of these. Remember those 2 curves? We need to add them to each animation. Add curve, first distance curve. This need to be an ascending curve, so we are zeroing out the root bone rotation. Let's see from negative 180 to 0. Okay. Double click on this curve to add it. Add the first key at 0 second negative 180 value. Then the second key at 2.33 seconds, value at 0. Select both keys and just click on Auto to smooth. Do keep in mind though, this is only for demonstration and it's not very accurate movement data. So if you want some accuracy, you can use the rotation amount curve, add each key up and plot it to a scale from negative 180 to 0. Then you can use the new curve. Should be much more accurate. So let's do another one. L90. This curve we need to set the value from negative 90 degrees to 0. The rest is all the same. Okay, let's just use these 2 as example. So we still need to switch between these 2 stands. So a single variable should do, but we won't be able to get it directly from current character reference because it's a TPS based character, not an ALS reference. So we'll need to do another cast. Just cast our pawn to ALS anim BP or ALS base character. Should both be okay. We could also replace the old character reference since this new one derives from it. After saving the new reference, we need to get its stance variable. Oh, there happened to be a sequence here, so we're going to promote to variable. And update that value here. Now we can do a blend pose stance using this anim. Add the 2 pose pins, ignore the default one, copy this part over and connect. Okay, this is not rotating, probably because I forgot a curve. Let's see, add metadata is turning. Okay, let's do the other one as well. Okay, animation is working, but there's a problem. When we are blending out of that animation, we go to a standing pose, then back to crouching. So we'll save that for later. Let's just get the rotation animation working first. Now in this setup, we need a 360-degree rotation animation. There's none in ALS, so we are going to make one. Let's find the CLF rotation animations. We need only one of these. For example, let's use this L90 animation. Browse to asset. We're going to make an animation composite from this sequence. So let's call it, I don't know, AC underscore. Okay, for now, it's just a 190-degree rotation animation. We need 3 more of these. So just drag them in here and check the results. Perfect alignment. Now we have a 4 seconds long animation to rotate 360 degrees. Okay, back in anim graph, make some space. Want to do the same blend pose by stance. Plug the existing pose into standing and drag in our composite. Right click and convert it to single frame animation. Connect to crouching. Now this is no longer driven by the internal timer, but using this explicit time to go through the frames, and we need to borrow this map range clamped and root yaw increment variable as well. But we need to change the outrange B to 4 because we have a 4 seconds long animation. Okay, let's give it a try. Mouse right button to aim down sight. Aiming down sight, the character rotates instead of turns. Looks good, but we still have that standing issue to fix. Well, it appears that when we blend from either rotate or turn to idle state, it goes to a standing to crouching transition and then to the crouching pose. This is not controlled in ATPS blueprint, so let's take a look at the ALS NMVP. In the base layer, there's this state machine controlling standing and crouching transition. We want to be able to bypass all of these and go from entry to crouching directly. Fortunately, the transition rule is already there. Let's take a look. So it's controlled by a curve value. Memorize this curve name and we're going to use it. First, let's create this on our skeleton. Okay, then we need to use this curve. You can add it to all of those animations as metadata. It should work just fine, but I'm going to show you another way to do this. So in TIP state, we will add a modify curve node. Right click and add curve pin. We want the one we just created, base post CLF, and give it a value of 1. So when we are playing any of these animations, we modify this value to 1. Give it a try. Okay, no longer going through the transitions. Good. Let's do rotation as well. Same thing. Don't forget to set the float value. Good. Okay, here's another issue. When we reload, our characters seem to be moved up a little. Actually, nothing is moved up. It's a blending issue. If you go to ATPS anim graph, this is where the weapon handling montages blend with the locomotion. If you expand this layer setup, you will see it's blending at the pelvis bone. Since the montages are made in a standing pose, it's going to drag the pelvis bone up a little bit. So we can fix this by changing to blend at the spine 01 bone. These two, you can leave them be. Okay, let's see. Reload. Good. Only thing I don't like is it looks a bit too upright. Not much we can do about this. Assets from different projects don't always match up perfectly, but We could try to solve this by modifying the spine-01 rotation or maybe using control rig, but I think it's overcomplicating simple issues. So for me, I would just try to modify the crouching pose to make it lean a bit forward, or simply make a new set of animations. If this is something you need, just leave me a message and I will add it to my to-do list. Let's see if there are similar issues elsewhere, okay? Okay, dual wheel pose is having the same problem. Anything else? Both seems fine. Rifle's good. Okay, hand is messed up. That's because we are missing a curve called left hand IK off. It turns off left hand IK, so we just need to create that curve and make sure to add it to the sequence, not just the montage. Let's just do this first. Find the rifle reload montage. There's two of them. One's for reloading one round at a time, the other one's for loading with a clip. There's multiple sections, so we need to add the curve to all of these. We also need to add it to the manual charge animation. Okay, now it's good. Let's fix that dual wheel levitation issue. Go to this section, dual wheel main off. Change the layer setup to blend at spine-01. Okay, I made another mistake. Spelled the name wrong. It's spine-01, not Now it's better. Let's check shield pose. Okay, same thing. There's something else we could do. In the idle state, where we switch between shield and non-shield animations, let's add another condition. Stance equal to standing. This way, when we are no longer standing, we could play that standing and crouching transition animation. Real nice. Okay, we need to do that for the run state as well. So it seems okay, but transition between standing and crouching when rolling with a shield is a bit buggy. We can do this. In the RIP and TIP and run state, increase the blend time between standing and crouching from 0.1 to 0.5 seconds. You can also add another condition to this blend. There's a Boolean variable called isFalling in ATPS. Use this var to blend to the linked anim graph so jump animation can be played. Okay, we're mostly done here. Before we wrap things up, let me just show you one issue I haven't been able to fix yet. If you ragdoll and get back up, well, you won't. And if you show collision, you will see that the mesh is no longer attached to the capsule. This is happening because we are overriding the physics asset. Open up ALSv4, select your mesh component, search for physics asset. This is inherited from ATPS blueprint. We want to clear this. But now if we go to Ragdoll, chances are we will collide like crazy and just fly out of bounds. The difference between these two is ALS physics asset has a collision body for root bone, which is what the character location will be updated to when in Ragdoll. ATPS don't have this. You can add this to the asset, but will cause the same out-of-bound issue. I think it's because there's a conflict somewhere when updating the character location during Ragdoll. Because if we disable this part in the set actor location during Ragdoll function, we no longer fly off like crazy. Then again, our character location will not update when we exit Ragdoll, so the mesh will just snap back. One thing you could try is to modify the code to run this section only once when you exit the Ragdoll. It will be snappy, but I think at least it should work. I will make a small update if I solve this. If you know how to fix this, or if I missed something in the tutorial, you can leave me a message or join the Discord server. Have fun developing!